Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TLD Chat. Hey, it's Wednesday. Wednesday on TLD Chat, hashtag day. Wednesday normally means that we're going to be talking about teams, and we might talk about that too if you're familiar with our rings of focus. But we have a fantastic guest today. We have Connie Malamed with us today, who we will be getting with shortly here. And you can all do her a fantastic favor by introducing yourselves so that while I'm going through all of my intro stuff, she can maybe get to know you guys a little bit too. And we can all start to get to know each other and learn from each other in the next hour. Well, 55 minutes to be exact. But before we jump into that conversation, let me tell you all about TLD Chat. We are the Training, Learning, and Development Chat. We are also TLDC, is the parent father brand, if you will. We are the Training, Learning, and Development Conference. We're the Training, Learning, and Development Community and the Training, Learning, and Development Chat, and a whole bunch of other C words too coming at you very shortly. We also have a member community that we are also firing up some special content for. So get ready for those emails. One should be coming to you today if you are a member. So I hope you'll be looking forward to that. Don't let it go into your junk box. And we also have the fabulous TLDC 18 event coming up in January in lovely Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to be talking about everything that we talk about here, everything training, learning, and development, the work that we all do, whether you have the title of a training professional or a learning and development professional or a CLO, it doesn't matter. Most people, no matter what your role is, deal with having to educate others, having to train others, having to build training, having to create performance support, anything in general. You're always helping other people do what they do, and we can help you do that better. So anybody doing the work of training, learning, and development can benefit from the event. So share it with your friends. Let everybody know what you're doing here today. We've got a nice big crowd of folks today. Wow, Connie has a big fan group hanging out with us today. So go ahead and click that share button at the top of the screen if you all will, and share it with your networks. Share it on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the soon-to-be dead Google+. But it's still there, so why not use it? So anyways, I think that's just about it for our announcements today. We've had a great last couple days, and today's guest keeps the week going strong. Thank you very much, and super introductions to Connie Malamed. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. How about everybody in the chat? Is everybody hearing us both? Sounds good, sounds good, sounds great, sounds great. Awesome. Yeah, it's all good. So, Connie, I think most of the people here probably know you, but why don't you just give us a little introduction? Who is Connie Malamed?
You know, I actually pronounce my name Malamed, but it's okay because everyone pronounces it differently. God, you tried.
I butcher names all the time, and it's so embarrassing. Okay,
Malamed. Well, really both are okay. I used to teach special ed, and they called me Miss Marmalade, and honestly, that was my favorite.
Oh, excellent.
Miss Marmalade, right?
Good to know.
So I might change my. Oh, thanks, Kara, about the podcast. The podcast is awesome. In fact, after this, I'm going to do a recording with Patty Shank about practice and feedback.
Oh, nice.
Something that we can really geek out on. So,
yeah.
You know, I have a kind of cool, well, it might only be interesting to me, but an origin story.
Yeah, go for it.
So I was teaching at an alternative school, and I kept making the kids games. And I made so many games that they begged me for ditto sheets. I just loved making learning games. And I was thinking, this was like a million years ago, and I kept thinking, I wonder if I could ever do a career in this. And then I moved to, that was in Tennessee. Then I moved to Austin, and I saw a job, and I just gotten into computers, and I saw a job in the computer lab. So I thought, I'm going to go apply for that job, even though I have very little experience. And when I was during the interview, the woman said to me, the interviewer said to me, I'm getting my PhD in instructional design. And unlike most people who have no idea what it means, that was the first time I'd heard the words, I almost fell off my chair. I knew exactly what it meant. I knew she didn't mean interior decorator. I knew she didn't mean someone who does, who remodels, like most people do. I knew what she meant, and I flipped out because I'd never heard those two words before. And I said, "Really? Where?" And she said, "University of Texas. It's not even in the graduate school book yet." And I went, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." So I applied. I got in, and she made me. I was just going for a master's degree, so she made me sit in on her classes, and take notes, for the courses we were taking together. So she didn't have to be there. But anyway, and I didn't get paid extra for that either. But anyway, that's my exciting story about how I got into instructional design. It was just so cool that I kept thinking I wanted to do it, and it turned out to be a thing.
It actually is a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my story is actually quite similar. I was going to try to get a video contract to produce some videos for a professor at ASU. And he kind of said the same thing after we started talking. He was like, "Hey, have you ever thought of graduate school? We're firing up this new program called Educational Technology and Computers." He said, you should consider that. And I'm like, "So does that mean I don't get the video gig?"
That's all you cared about.
And he was like, "No, you can have that too, but we need technical people like you in the program. So here's what I want you to do." And I don't even think I said yes to him. He just started walking me through the process and telling me everything I needed to do. And I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Next thing I know, I'm enrolled in graduate school classes.
Well, I had to take the GRE.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Yeah.
9 months pregnant. They were so nervous about me being there. 9 months pregnant. They sat me by the door in case I had to run out and have a baby. It was ridiculous.
That's awesome. Oh, I love it. Man, yeah. So I wasn't that bad.
You weren't 9 months pregnant.
I wasn't 9 months pregnant, no.
Not everybody can be.
Darn it. I needed an excuse probably because I don't think I did well on it, but they let me in anyways.
Yeah, same with me.
It was all good. But hey, so so we're going to talk today, like I said. We know kind of your origin story and how you got into it. What are you doing as of late, and what kind of experiences can you share with us? Some
of the things I'm doing are your typical design and development contract work, trying to make it engaging and exciting. Some of the things I'm working on are companies who need help figuring out, what to do from the start, strategies. And like, for instance, I made a podcast for someone, but it was scripted with voice actors.
Oh, wow.
And that was really fun, just because their people were tired of doing e-learning. So that was kind of fun. It really ranges. I've been doing a lot of teaching too. Malamed actually means teacher in Hebrew. Actually, I think it's Malamed actually, but pretty close. Yeah. So, and sometimes it's just visual design work. So, I think one of the things that people get into this field love is being able to do the creative stuff, the analytical stuff, and everything in between. It's so varied. And now that we're like 21st century learning experience designers, we can suggest and do anything. We can do curation. We can walk into a meeting and say, "You don't need training, you need this or that," and I can help you with it. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're in a good time right now, I think, right? I mean, there's a lot that can be done, and we talk a lot about those different options. And I don't see we have a lot of opinionated folks that normally hang out in the chat that would that love to share their opinions strongly, which is always fun. I don't see any of them in here today, though. Oddly enough,
that's really too bad. Well, let's see. Let me think of something. I could talk about learning styles. That would.
Oh, there you go. That would. No. Let's not go there. Yeah, we don't want to fire that debate up.
Okay.
Hey, so here's a very simple question that gets asked a lot, and I keep forgetting to ask this of my other guests, but people always want to know, like, what is the best learning solution that you've seen? Maybe not done yourself, but you just thought, "Wow, that is really good."
Wow.
I know it's hard.
I think I heard about one. You could bring up neuroscience. Well, okay. Got it. For controversial things. especially brain scans. That's controversial.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see. I heard of someone doing something just yesterday. Sometimes I give keynotes, and I like to find stories to tell in my keynotes, so I often will interview people. And yesterday, someone was telling me about a solution that they made. It was a review process for people were putting in their documents for medical devices, and they were constantly getting rejected. So they did a really like 360-degree solution. And those are the cool ones, you know, where it's partial training, it's partial performance support, it's partial just people learning how to collaborate and get along and talk to each other. I mean, I don't want to go into all the details, but I think these 360-degree solutions that learning experience or LX designers can figure out are just something that we can do and should do if our clients and our internal clients will allow us to.
Yeah. Well, isn't that curious that we all know that the future is experiences, right? Creating experiences and supporting the learning process, right? The long-term learning process, as opposed to just each individual event. But that normally does mean putting together that sort of holistic 360 look of maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And then sometimes you need a platform that maybe or maybe not supports all of them and connects all those activities together for the analysis and the tracking. And to date, I just don't think there really is that one perfect solution, because every 360 solution, at least that I've been involved in, is different than the last one I did and involves different solutions, right? Which is good.
That's what makes our job fun.
Yeah, that's right. That's what makes the job fun, but it also makes it not easy. It makes it very time consuming and complex to create, which also jacks the price up for the clients. And so then they don't want it. It's kind of, you know, that's why we always end up circling back around to, well, can you just make this an e-learning course?
Well, that's the dirty little secret, is that many clients, many supervisors, many people don't really want a solution. They just want to check the box.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Very true. And when you start to ask those tough questions about what are you really trying to measure in the business and the performance, and let's start there, and they don't know, that's when you really start to see where the real project lies. And at least at the very least, you at least know where you stand at the end of the conversation, right?
Right.
You know, they're not asking to pay for one thing and expecting something else if you know exactly that they're not really interested in measuring, you know, anything significant other than a butt in the seat or an eyeball on the screen.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
Yeah. So what's been your favorite project to work on in your career so far?
Oh man, I didn't list that question.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love anything that involves you know, a real design aspect, that real design thinking kind of let's collaborate, let's co-create, let's try to do it together. I'm working on something like that now with a company, just for a one-day learning project, interviewing people, finding out what's really going on in the organization, so that when we have a workshop, it's kind of like a co-created one.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether I'm doing that in e-learning or in a stand-up workshop or whatever the solution is, I just think that whole design thinking approach of co-creation and collaboration and quick iterations and prototypes is just really exciting. It's added a real jolt of caffeine to the field.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that stuff is always fantastic. I'm always, this is something really curious to me, and you didn't ask this question either, although there are a couple of questions that other people have dropped in that I want to get to, because they're good ones.
There's also sarcastic ones in there, so we have to watch out for those.
No, we have to watch out for those sarcastic people. But
those people.
I want to know, so since with the design book that you have, do you find yourself getting pigeonholed into that kind of work only? Do people come to you and say, hey, can you just take this PowerPoint of mine and just make it look good, you know, or can you take this e-learning, or can you take this PowerPoint, turn it into really good looking e-learning, or, do you get a lot of that? Or
I actually don't get that much, but if anybody wants to give me that work, I find it a lot of fun. So
oh,
please
cool.
No, but I haven't found myself pigeonholed into that. It's probably more likely that people just don't even know who I am and don't even know about the books.
And then you can show it to them. Well, we'll have to make that. We'll have to
pigeonhole me. Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, you're hanging out here. Did we get a link dropped into her book, by the way? Let's see. I'm not sure, but maybe we'll just go. We'll go back to that. So
I do love to clean stuff up. Handmade signs drive me nuts. Personally, I think instructional designers should rule the world. So I think that our signs, road signs, signs all over, everything should be done by instructional designers.
Or at least designers, right? Maybe we should take the word instruction out of it and just be good designers, because isn't good instructional design just good design?
It is. And one thing I write about in this book that I'm just putting in the text is that we don't think of ourselves enough as designers. I mean, maybe it's happening more and more, but certainly when I first got into the field, and even, it was very systematic and almost, well, engineers are designers too, but we didn't think of ourselves necessarily as creative designers. And I think the field of user experience has helped us tap into that a little bit more, and the field of graphic design and visual design too. So somebody says, what made me a coach? Can I answer that question?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just made that up like 8 years ago. I have no idea why I said it.
But it's a great one, and that's your website, right? So let's talk about that, right? So there was a great question in the chat, right? I don't know if this is one of the snarky ones or not, but it sounds legit to me. What led you to start the eLearning Coach website and make all your resources available to others?
Well, now I do have an answer to that. After I got through graduate school, I started, and got into the field. I started to see that a lot of people had not gone through school, which is perfectly fine. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. And I realized that there was all the stuff I was learned about cognitive psychology and instructional design models and cognitive architecture and all those things that I thought I could share with people who hadn't gone through schooling. And that's how it all started. And so now there's like 325 articles. I write 1 or 2 a week for, I think, since 2009. It's been kind of crazy, but I really learned to love writing. Also, I didn't really think of myself as a writer, but I love it now.
Yeah, that kind of happened to me too. I was always afraid of writing because I did so poorly in grade school. It was just like, I was great whenever they said, here's a creative writing project for you. Always got A's on those. But then whenever I had to really write academically, I always just failed. I never figure out why. I never understood. I never really had a good teacher that explained to me the structuring and the format. And they tried. I just never really got it. So when blogging came about, that was what gave me a lot of practice. Because you're allowed to write whatever you want, however you want. And if people don't like it, they don't have to read it. So I'm just like, cool, I get to just go write. And, through just the process of trial and error and reading other people's blogs too, and how they wrote it, I think I got better at it. But over time, a lot of people told me, no, don't change it. Don't become any different. We like that informal tone. So
right.
I just got stuck with it.
Well, when I wrote my first book, Visual Language for Designers, I had this great editor, and she really helped me because I did used to write very academically, and she used to come back. She came back to me and would just say huh? In her comments. The writing was so dense and obfuscated, if that's the word. I don't know how to pronounce it. And then she came back and kind of taught me, forced me to write more simply, and that's what kind of got me into it. Somebody's talking about what's the difference between IDs and graphic artists?
Ooh.
Well, that's kind of like apples and oranges. But in terms of design, I do want to say that I think it's a lot easier to learn visual design than to learn the principles of visual design and graphic design than to learn to be an artist. And I think I spoke about something like that once before with you guys. So I don't know if that interests anybody. We can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that. I don't know if it's a debate, but it's always a great thing to look at, a great philosophical discussion. I'll say, right? What is art, or right? What is the difference between knowing the mechanics and technically being able to do graphic design, or technically being able to use the tool, and what does it then mean to be able to be an artist and utilize those tools? Is it two different things? You know?
Yeah, I think even though many graphic designers are artists, like in their off hours, that they don't consider necessarily, wouldn't define what they're doing as fine art when they're doing graphic design. And that's because graphic design and visual design, I think of graphic design, it's often print-based or it's for websites, and visual design is more like visual communication in a broader sense. And I think that's what we do in instructional design. And the principles may be kind of the same, but in visual design and graphic design, you're always communicating a message, absolutely communicating a message. So it can't be confusing, unless maybe it's like a poster for a punk band or something, you know, or
Yeah.
heavy metal band. Maybe that's okay if it's a little confusing and you have to stand there. But
Jazz.
yeah. But we're always communicating a message, and that's the big, big difference. So
Yeah.
if we can't communicate that message, then the design fails. And then I guess that's kind of true with instructional design too, really.
Well, that's the kind of thing I think I think the piece that we have a tendency to miss is that there is, when you look at really, really good design and really professional designers, there is always a very specific reason why you know, one of the graphic design elements is the size that it is, or the shape that it is, or the color that it is. Somebody has put a lot of work into it, and there's a lot of reasoning behind it. And I don't think we put that level of intensity behind a lot of the work that we do. And I think if we did, a lot of our work would be much more simplistic, and it'd be easier for people to consume. And I think people would enjoy it a lot more, because what it does is just, it whittles it down to the basics. I think my favorite example of this is looking at the Apple logo. And I never really knew this until recently. Yeah, just that apple. If you look at it just black and white, I had no idea that the exact dimensions of the leaf that sits on top is the exact piece that fits the hole on the side.
I didn't know that either.
On the bite that's taken out of the apple. If you took that leaf, it would fit perfectly right into that space. And I never knew that before. But you don't, and it's not that it really matters, but when you look at it, and then you look at the math around it, if you look at that logo, there's a lot of websites that break down that logo. And I think this is where I kind of got turned on to this whole idea. They put all the lines around it, the graphs from the Photoshop or whatever tool, and it is very precise. One edge to the other, to the top. All of the golden ratio is there.
Golden ratio, right?
You know, all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, wow, there really is a reason why good design ends up being good design. It's not just some random thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I see a lot of people have comments about this. I wonder how important people in the audience think that visual design is to any kind of learning materials, like a job aid, slides, e-learning. Do most people think that that's they're saying something funny to you about the golden ratio, Brent? But do people think that yeah, let's see what people say. I think it's incredibly important, huge, it's critical.
Yes, oh yes, I only know about that because I remembered seeing it in school, but I wasn't paying attention. And there is, I met a long time ago. She's still tangentially a part of our industry, but she has a tattoo of the golden ratio. And I remember, I remember thinking to myself, that is really cool, but I don't remember why it's cool, and I need to find out. And she said she used it to find out if she wanted to talk to people or have a conversation with them, or if she wanted, you know, if somebody could walk up and know what it is, then she would engage. If they had no idea and came up and said, "What's that?" then she knew that to keep the conversation short and move on.
Yeah, that's like telling someone you're an instructional designer.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's a sure sign, but
yeah, it's kind of interesting what people are saying about it. I mean, it seems like everyone here thinks it's pretty important. But some people would prefer not to do it because they think others can do it better than them.
Yeah, which is, I think, it's an okay place to be, right? If we can shape the content and kind of explain to somebody what it is that we're looking for, and then let them use their expertise to bring it to life, use all of that technical knowledge that they have, and to take sort of your idea or your content and you know, make it realized. I think that's fantastic.
Right, and somebody here saying, like, you know, Diane's saying ideas are not necessarily designers and not visual designers, and that's true. But I do think we can. That's the kind of thing that that I teach in workshops. I do think we can get a lot better at it. There are just really some. I mean, I could almost say 6 basic principles. You know, white space and color and typography, and there's just some basic principles where when you learn them, suddenly you would never put a super busy background in an e-learning course. And just like Brent was saying, sometimes the simplest ones are the best, and they really are. Minimalism is going to help people process the information because they're not getting distracted and having to process all the extraneous stuff. And someone also mentioned, and here's a great thing to debate, that graphics should be relevant, or eye candy, you know, is distracting, and that's true. That whole seductive details thing. But on the other hand, if I have something that's just plain, I might add something very subtle for eye candy so that it looks kind of nicely designed. So I think that's a debate. It's a debate I have with myself frequently. Do you ever use eye candy? Do you ever use, maybe not something that's irrelevant, but something that's relevant but subtle to make it look a little bit better?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a great conversation. I mean, there's, and is it distracting, but are you being distracting on purpose? And is it that distracting? Right. And, you know, I don't even know if there's answers to that. I don't know if there's answers to any of these questions, really. It always, to me, the answer is always, it depends, right? It depends on, and this is where the instructional designer comes in, knowing that you need to understand your audience, knowing the content, knowing maybe what delivery mechanism the client uses, the enterprise uses. That's going to guide your decision, whether you like it or not. I know there are a lot of people who will fight me on that, but every now and then, if everybody in the organization is used to getting training a certain way, and you've been called in to train them, I don't care how much you fight them. If you tell them, no, they need to buy a new platform or get a new tool to deliver exactly what you want to create, it's not going to happen. So you've got to work within those constraints sometimes. And sometimes you have no choice but to, you know, utilize what they have. Right.
More often than not, at least I see this when I teach visual design classes, people say that they don't have the resources, that they don't have the graphics. But I just did want to clarify, when I'm talking about, let's say I'm going to use eye candy, I might just use a silhouette, something, or a very subtle icon, or faded. So I'm not talking about a big, bright, exciting thing, but just a little touch. Christy says a good stock photo selection can contribute to better visual. It's not just eye candy. Yeah, I agree. Because you can give people a suggestion of what something is about, and then by giving them that suggestion, they may, which is almost at an unconscious level or pre-conscious level, they may be able to process the information more quickly. But you don't want it to be super distracting. So it's really, you know.
It depends.
It depends. I mean, I see a lot of good comments here. Saw a great graphic use class at DevLearn a couple of years back. Some of those same suggestions. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. Those 6 basic design elements, I think, are always classic, especially for people that have never been designed in it. They may just not know why that their designs and their, you know, the things that they create aren't as good as they could be. And so just, even though they may not feel like they are artistic, just understanding that there is a concept called white space and that it's okay to leave a lot. Some people just don't even know. They feel like they need to fill the page. And, you know, to let people know that it's okay not to, that takes a big burden off of people too, to say, oh, okay, I get it, you know?
Right.
And so just learning those basics, I think can change people's design significantly. Hey, let me take my 30-minute break and go through some stuff, and I'll let you chat with everybody.
Okay.
In the chat here real quick. You can answer all those questions, and then we will come right back. And I will begin by telling everybody thank you again for being a part of the community. Thanks for being a part of TLDC, and take this opportunity to click that share button at the top of the screen and tell everybody, hey, we're having a fantastic conversation with Connie Malamed. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
And tell them that. Yeah, user, go ahead and put that on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Let everybody know that there's still some, at least 25 minutes left of some great conversation, and they can always catch the recording later as well. But TLD chat is always free. Sometimes people just assume that since everything else seems to be pay these days, that they have to pay to come here too. And so they just kind of, you know, ignore what we do. But hey, this is free. You guys can hang out with us anytime you want. All are welcome here. So if you're looking for that little extra value add, actually that lot of extra value add, hit up our member site and you can become a paid member. And that just helps in many, many, many different ways. But it also gives us an opportunity to continue to add a significant value back to you in the form of discounts and other things as well. So feel free to hit up the membership page, get your discount for the event coming up in January as well, TLDC 18, which I guess I was already here, coming up in 81 days, 14 hours, 23 minutes, and 33 seconds. We're January 29th and 30th in Phoenix, Arizona at the lovely Geek Chic Galvanized Training Center, which is going to be a lot of fun to be at. Very different than most of the venues you may have experienced in the past. And so we're super excited about that. Lots of speakers coming in, and the schedule is still a little bit fluid. I'm still dialing some stuff in, but there is a lot of great stuff in there if you need to take a look, if you have to sell it to your management or your manager, share it with a friend or two. I'm still working on some of the details and putting that together, but we've got a lot of that stuff locked in. Margie, who's in the chat, she's going to be giving a great talk to us about the neuroscience stuff, and she's going to it's not listed in the schedule yet, but I'm working on getting in a session on bots and creating your own bots, which is going to be a lot of fun. So tons and tons and tons of stuff there. Yes, I will help Deborah register, or Luis, maybe you can jump in and help Deborah register if she's having some issues with that. So yeah, don't worry about that. Jump in, or I'm happy to help you as soon as this chat's over. Yeah, fantastic.
Keep talking. I got to go plug my computer in.
Yeah, no worries. Go for it. So, yeah, so excellent. So we're talking design today with Connie, and we've got the event coming up. Please become a member. And again, everybody, thank you so much. We've got a nice big crowd in here today. Thank you all for jumping in and hanging out and talking with us. I've seen some new faces and new names in here today. I hope all of you regulars and members are making the new folks feel comfortable and chatting with them and letting them know what you do, where you're at, and help to strengthen and build this community as we begin to grow and move everyone forward in the industry. So there's so many different things that we can talk about, and today's conversation is just one of those areas. That's why we're here every day, because there is a ton of stuff to talk about. 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. UK time. I think it's 4 p.m. Did it shift to 3 p.m.? Somebody said it was still 4 p.m. I'm not sure, but I'll let you guys work it out. All my friends from the UK. Bethany's still here, I think. Being in that area. Yes, absolutely. It's back to 4 p.m. All right, there you go.
This is a great community. I love it.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, that's always good to hear. So you'll be hanging out with us a little bit more when you can?
Yes, I will.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's a good group of folks. And to your point earlier, I'll just start off the second half of the show with this. It is filled with people exactly like you said, people that really enjoy both the creative side, geeking out on the tech side, doing the strategy, doing the analytics, doing some detail work. I mean, it's a little bit of everything
It really
in
is.
this industry and the work that we do. And it brings in a very eclectic crowd that has always been fantastic. It's why I've enjoyed being in this industry for so long.
Same with me. I almost quit once, and now I'm happy, really happy I didn't.
Yeah, I keep telling people I think I mentioned this yesterday too in our conversation. I think 2 times I can remember 2 times in my career where I was very close to saying, maybe I should do something else. But then the tech shifted and got me all psyched again. So.
That's what happened to me too. There was a time when it was really bad.
Yeah. Because it got boring for a while, right? It just, everything was same old, and it was like, this isn't going anywhere. And then all of a sudden a tech boom hits and you're like, ooh, I see how this can be used in learning. We're going to have to jump back in and start running down this trail.
Hey, Sam, it was simply just, it wasn't a big story. It was just that they had just, they stopped using CD-ROMs and they were going to the internet, but the internet was horrible and it was like going back 10 years. And that was when I almost quit. I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, we were doing some really cool high-end multimedia stuff on CD-ROMs and DVDs, and it was great. And then when everybody was demanding the web, you had to go back to text and still images and small images, and you couldn't really do anything engaging. And it was just like, oh, dang it.
Right. I'm glad I hung in. And they kept saying the bandwidth is going to widen. Just wait.
Yeah. And now look at us. We're streaming live video and chatting with each other.
Only 50 years later. It was like that.
Oh, my God. It can't be that long. Don't say that. Well, listen, let's jump in and answer some of these questions real quick. So how do you think our field will evolve or needs to evolve over the next 10 years? Ooh, that's a big number. Maybe if 5 years is easier, do
5
that.
years is a lot easier. And I'd like to hear what people in the audience are saying too. So how will it evolve? And I think our roles are going to get much broader because when people ask for training, there are problems. And it's not always a training problem. So I think that, but everyone I meet in the field is so smart that I know that everyone can do more than just create a training course. So I think we can find all kinds of wide open solutions to these performance problems or workplace problems that people are having. So I think that's one way. I just think we're going to really expand. I think we're going to be able to find big solutions like people call it blended learning. Sometimes I call it 360-degree solutions. Just where maybe eventually people will be open to us coming up with really broad solutions, and they will actually pay for it. Because sometimes the solution is a checklist. I mean, that happens in the medical world all the time.
Yeah.
The solution to a problem is a checklist, and people don't have the cognitive architecture to remember huge amounts of things, just like pilots. That book that I read, The Checklist Manifesto, that was so awesome. Yeah. It was so, you would think that it would be so boring, but to me it was fascinating.
Oh yeah, it's been a fantastic, it gets brought up a lot when people mention, what are some books that you like to read? And that's a great follow-up question to that, since they're a nice little segue. So what books outside of our industry would you recommend?
Okay, let me think about that for a second, but I just do want to say that Kim was talking about an apprenticeship trend, and I don't know about one, but yeah, apprenticeships are great. I mean, how could you go wrong with an apprenticeship? You're doing instead of just sitting back and being passive. So it's just great. Well, I'm really liking Patty Shank's new book, Practice and Feedback. I just went through that, but that's within the field. Outside of the field, I will read books on typography and visual design. I like those. User experience. I guess lately I've been reading a lot online. I have been reading some political books too, but we don't want to go there.
No, we don't want to go there.
So
Not that it's a rule or anything, but yeah, we don't go there.
So
like, do you so are you familiar with the fantastic work of Norman Vincent, the UX designer guy?
sure. I just tweeted something from him the other day. It was really interesting article.
Thank you, Christy. I was just about to say the design of everyday things. That's what I was thinking of.
Well, Norman is now with Yakov, the UX book. Norman and the UX site that's doing all that research. Norman
and Nielsen, yeah.
Yeah, Norman and Nielsen, okay. And they had a really interesting article that it might be their most recent one that's about how UX people are using design thinking and when they're using it and how often it helps versus this or that approach. It was really interesting research, and I just tweeted it a couple days ago, but you can go to their site, Norman and, what's it called? NNN? I don't know.
I have their graphic like visual in my head, but it's just that NNN. That's all I see. Yeah. NN
group. There we go. Yeah, go there and look at that latest Norman Nielsen group. Go there and look at their latest article about design thinking.
That's a rabbit hole I get lost in quite a bit when I go to that website, because all of that stuff that they talk about is incredibly applicable to the work they do and fascinating too. It's like another book that I keep forgetting to mention that just popped into my head is Irrational something or other, or Irrational Predictability, I think is what it's called.
Oh, nice. And what is that about?
It's fascinating research on why, like, when we think we're being predictable or we think people are making logical decisions, they're really not making, that are irrational predictability. Yes, that's it.
It's an economics concept too.
Yep. And that's where he was. The book is good because it takes it sort of to that next higher level. It's not so deeply mired in the economics or the neuroscience or anything. He makes it very consumable and accessible. And he talks a lot about the different research that he's done and to prove different points, and very, very actually shocking points that you wouldn't think would come out. It's interesting.
Well, essentially, people are saying that we're emotional beings and that we make emotional decisions and then we rationalize them.
Yeah, to a certain extent, right? There's a lot that goes on in our subconscious that we're not aware of. And I guess we could lean this conversation towards all the biases too, right? We talk about all of the different biases that play in everything that we do, which are strong as well, and I think that plays well in our field as well. So
it does. Almost everything does. So I see some people are recommending books. One person is saying, I think it was Josh was saying, Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow is really good.
Yeah. Yep. And the Heath brothers. Yep. Their books are great.
I didn't know about the Heath brothers' newest book, Moments of Power. That sounds kind of interesting. Yep, Thinking Fast and Slow. Everybody's loving that one. Oxy magazine, OXY. That sounds good. Today I was just looking at the Flipboard book, Flipboard magazine from Trends in Instructional Design. They do a lot of nice curation there, and that's pretty good to read too.
Yeah, I love the sites that highlight other people's design and things like that too, and put together like a cluster of like common design elements that are working and whatnot, and that always helps.
Yeah, you mean the pattern sites?
Yeah.
Those are great. And there's another one called something like the small details or the little details. So I'm gonna have to check out Oxy magazine. Definitely recommended. And
John,
yeah, what's that?
He says Oxy magazine is blemish free.
Sounds really interesting.
All right, so let's jump in here and get some of these other questions answered before we run out of time too quick. We're probably not going to get to all of them unless we want to speed through them, but let's just go with, what other fields would you suggest that people read about and study that are outside of instructional design?
So two of them are definitely user experience design, which has such an overlap with learning experience design or LX design. And if we begin to call ourselves LX designers, just think of how cool that will be. Because now UX and IDX, you know, I want to be cool like that. I want to be able to wear use the sunglasses emoji.
We should step up our darn, you know, our rating a little bit, you know.
Right. So I'm an LX designer. So there. So user experience design, interaction design, user interface design, and visual design are some of the standard ones.
I always like to throw out too for people that isn't always it isn't always immediately one that pops up, but I think anthropology is a really good and not necessarily the outcomes of, but the way anthropologists conduct and do their work is exactly what we do in our analysis phase of that. Like they are the pros at analyzing a culture, right? And a lot of what we do is we need to learn how people work first before we can figure out what the problem is and solve the problem. And that's not, I mean, why should our community reinvent the wheel when there's already a field of study out there that has mastered the art of studying people?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that's why in UX there's ethnographic research, they call it, you know. And now
ethnography, yeah.
Now I don't even think of it as analysis so much as research and analysis.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're researching people and getting that empathy happen. Someone mentioned game design, ethnography. Yes.
Lots of good ones.
Lots of good ones. One day I made a list of about 9 or 10 of them, and I'm trying to remember what else was in it. I mean, it's always good to just go outside the field, like you're saying, even with anthropology, with sociology, and you can just pull things back into it. And then there's all those technical areas too, like learning programming.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, Anthony's not here, but he would be jumping up and down for joy. His ears are burning and with excitement about coding. He thinks everybody should learn how to code. And he's a big fan of that. So we're at about 9:51. And before we run out of time, one thing we have not had a chance to do yet is to really geek out on the tech side of things. So let's do that. And we'll just start it off with Kim's question on what tool or software do you prefer to use when creating job aids and why? And does it matter if it's one page or multiple pages?
Well, that's an interesting question. You know what's weird? I don't know in design. I have it, and I just haven't had the time to learn it. So for me, the best tool that I use for creating manuals and job aids is either PowerPoint or Illustrator. Word is probably the worst because I don't even know how to put a picture in Word. It just goes all over the place. So PowerPoint is so nice. I mean,
yeah.
Somebody, Diane thinks she loves InDesign. Oh, now you're making me feel bad. I've got to learn InDesign. But Illustrator is really nice too. And people will ask me to make information graphics for them, and I always do that in Illustrator. But a simple job aid with check marks, I might be happy to do that in PowerPoint. PowerPoint has, can do some nice layouts, and you can make it any single size that you want, and then you export to a PDF. And somebody's saying they make InDesign is super for making interactive PDFs, Diana's saying. So yeah.
Yep. Those are hot topics these days. We should probably do a TLD chat just on interactive PDFs because that has come up a lot for me in the past few weeks. Lots of people have pinged me about that. So
here's somebody who's Craig's using MS Publisher. I didn't even know that was still around. I used to know that. Sketch is kind of nice too. That's a whole big thing.
Oh yeah.
Candace said Bozarth. So what is Jane talking about? PowerPoint is great. Yeah. PowerPoint is kind of fun. Years ago, I used to pride myself in not knowing PowerPoint. It was so bad. And now, people are using it as a graphic editor. It actually has, some power.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see what people think about how many pages should a job aid be. So if the purpose of the job aid is to quickly get information, I would say it has to be short, with just a few pages. However, pilots use a job aid that's a fat binder. So you must, if you're going to have a fat job aid, you have to have some kind of color coding and quick reference, a table of contents or something that can get you there quickly. And then when something is really long, that's when I start to think, well, why not just make it electronic? Why not make it a portal or a mobile app, and so that you can access the something very quickly rather than flipping through pages? That's what I think. But let's hear what other people are saying.
Yeah, for sure. And
Marty says it's a bad binder.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's so funny. Yeah, but I think at some point, right, we're going to have to, it'll all be talking to computers, right? It'll be the voice activated interface. It's, tell me how to land the plane, right? Or,
right.
walk me through the steps, and then instead of looking at the checklist, it'll be, have you checked this? Yes, check. Okay, check this. Oh, yes, check. Okay, check this. And some voice somewhere will be walking you through those checklists.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in the medical field, where I end up doing a lot of, often do a lot of work, not only, they'll often have a little card in 9-point font that you can barely read that has like all of this information. And if you notice in a hospital, often a doctor's pockets in their white coat are bulging with little job aids because there's so much to remember. They just can't get it all straight. That's why I think, in the future, it should just all be on a phone.
Yeah.
It'd just be so much easier. But I agree with Sam. I try to make them one pages, but I can understand if somebody, needs to make it a little bit longer. If you can go, and it's not that hard to get it on a phone. You just need a responsive website. That could do it. You don't have to make an app.
Well, I think it's the retrieval thing that stinks. Even if you have a whole bunch of little cards in your pockets or whatever, sometimes It is faster to pull that out than it is to even, like, you pull out your iPhone and it's like, hey Siri, give me the checklist on Operation. And they're like, would you like to play the game Operation? And you're like, no, the checklist on Operation, and then you have to deal with all that stuff. So I don't think it's quite fast enough yet to beat the good job aid, right? As far as access and retrieval of the information, but it's getting there, and it certainly will be there someday, probably sooner rather than later too. But in the meantime, I think we still have a good opportunity, and we'll still have jobs creating really nice job aids. I think
they have to be nice and clean. And Ray mentioned chatbots and learning machines. People are, Sam is mentioning how acquiring information is so different than referring to information. And of course, there's a real difference between learning and retaining it and just needing to access it. And earlier in the chat, someone mentioned information design, and that's a whole field too. There's an information design journal. There are books on information design. I reviewed one years ago on my site, and information design is really a big part of, should be a big part of our jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and there's the Ebbinghaus. Yes, absolutely. Hey, listen, we're got about 3 minutes left, approaching that 10 o'clock hour. Well, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hour. Boy, these times are going to kill me. I'm in Mountain Time now, in case everybody's wondering why I'm stumbling over my hours today. I used to be in Pacific Time, and so it was easy for me to be where everybody else is. But now I'm in Mountain Time, and it's kind of confusing me. So it's almost 10 o'clock my time, but I know it's almost 9 o'clock Pacific Time, and Eastern Time, folks, you're almost at noon, and it's crazy. So anyways, basically we're almost done.
Okay. And right after this, I'm going to do that podcast recording with Patty Shanks. So
yeah, that'll be awesome. So listen, let's be sure to tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find that great podcast. What's the name of the podcast and all that?
Okay, the eLearning Coach podcast is what it's called, and you can get it in iTunes and in my website, eLearningCoach.com, and it's just been a blast interviewing people, interviewing professors, information graphic artists, authors. It's just been really, really fun.
Yeah, don't you love it? It's my favorite thing for sure. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today and being the guest. Being on the other side of the foot. So how about your Twitter handle? Where can people find you on Twitter?
That's eLearning Coach too. Yeah, I just ended up with that, and Who knows why?
Yeah, it works, right? No sense changing it now.
No, it's too late now.
Yeah.
Someone suggested I change my URL, and I went, no way. I'm not redirecting 325 articles. Just no way.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen. Well, yeah, thanks again so much. I'm gonna close your video, but you'll still be in here as I'm wrapping up the show a little bit, and you can continue to chat and say goodbye to everybody.
Okay.
But
bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great to see you.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, that's another TLD chat done for the day. Man, that hour always goes by so quickly. Thank you, Connie, for hanging out with us today and talking to us about the wonderful world of design and everything that we do and the work that we do here. Don't forget, everybody, to get registered as a member of TLDC and also to get registered for the event coming up in January. We are rapidly running out of time. We're running up close to a lot of different deadlines. So please share with all of your friends in the community. Tell them about what we're doing here and click that share button to do it. Oh, thanks, Candace. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, and hang out with us. Tell everybody that you know that when you mention it to them, TLD chat is free. So it's like free consulting every single day. Again, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. UK time. We are global. We have a lot of fantastic supporters from around the world, and especially strong in the UK and in the Northern European areas as well. So we appreciate everything that you guys do. Thank you so much for supporting us and being a part of the community. It's been a blast, and it will continue to be. Don't forget, you members that are part of the community, we've got a great conversation that's going to be started this Friday, and it'll be members only. And so if you want to join us and talk about the world of consulting, please get your membership today, get joined up so you can be a part of that conversation. It's going to be extremely valuable to everybody. So we're really looking forward to that. I'm excited about it for sure. So anyways, it's 10:01, so it's time for me to go, and everybody's got meetings. Everybody have a fantastic day, and we will see you tomorrow.